Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Welcome to the Clause podcast channel. We are going to discuss a topic which is on the headlines of every single newspaper in the world, which is the Ukrainian drone attack against a very mighty power, the Russian airbase, which apparently we reported about 140 aircraft being destroyed, many of them in very vital nuclear air bases. So we don't know the extent of the damage yet in that field, in the nuclear capability. We are talking of what seems to be an entirely new chapter in air power, in the use of air power. So it has implications not just in terms of the Russian war, it has implications for the whole, practically the whole world in terms of how drones are likely to be used in future, the innovation in terms of how they're used, and of course it matters in terms of our own future in the subcontinent as to how we could see war panning out in the future. In this podcast, I'm happy to say we have a fantastic panel of experts. We are joined, of course, by our Director General, Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, our Additional Director General, Major General Bhadauria, and our very, very special guest today, who is Air Commodore Ashutosh Lal, whom I knew and all of us knew as one of the deadly Mi 35 pilots who was in the Indian Air Force and who, incidentally, not very central to what we're discussing today, was in Ukraine when the Russian attack began. He was there on the ground. He was also in Crimea when the attack took place. So it seems this is a person who has a knack of being in the hottest places going around. He also has massive experience in terms of his profession. I think about 6,000 hours, if I'm right, on at least a dozen types of aircraft. So he's not just a formidable Air Force expert in his own right on the field, he's also been on the ground and knows what has been going on in Ukraine for a long time. To begin with, I'd like to hand this over to Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, who has his own very special perspective on how this war is taking place. General Dushyant Singh, it's all yours.
Not be giving out my perspective as far as this operation is concerned, Operation Spiderweb launched by Ukraine. I am only going to give the brief context as to what all happened and how the entire thing is going to unfold in the future. That's more important because most of it is there in the news. So all of you, those who are interested in this subject would have read it. But anyway, just to refresh all of you, I'll just go over this particular event one by one. So to start with, possibly this was the biggest drone attack on Russian soil since the war began. And that is a given. So therefore, the reaction also is likely to be huge and overwhelming. So going by some pictures, as you can see, these are the attack. These are the pictures of the attack on various air bases of the Russian airfields. You have videos also floating around. What I feel, in my view, is that there has been a convergence of gray and black in the Russian warfare, Ukraine warfare. Operation Spiderweb is probably the culmination of this gray zone and the black warfare which is happening today unfolding. The entire preparations for this attack was in the gray zone and done so beautifully that nobody got an inkling. And then the actual execution took place openly and the claims have been taken place openly. So that becomes a black. So it's a high intense gray going into black. That's a very important part of it. So the drones and the missiles were inserted through the gray strategy. Missiles were not used, so I stand corrected there. The execution was done conventionally and openly, signifying black action. Ukraine's SBU claims responsibility for this operation, at least on paper. That is what is happening. 117 drones were used. They were initially stored in a shed, a roof of a shed, so that they cannot be seen so easily. Thereafter, they were carried to the various locations through trucks, and then the top cover of the truck was opened remotely, and the drones were then made to fly up and go and attack their respective targets. Most of them were these suicide drones or kamikaze drones, as they call it. They go and hit the target. They were explosive laden, and it is big claims were made for this. First of all, President Vladimir Zelensky, he said it was the most brilliant action taken by anyone till now, and tangible losses have been suffered. I'll cover the losses slightly later. And very interesting thing which you must all note is that he said that the mission office of Ukraine attack was next to the FSB office. Now, I will seek later on, or we'll seek later on, the comments of our Russian expert, General Bhadauria, on this kind of a thing, diya tale andhera. Right under the nose was the mission headquarter of this particular operation. How far it is true or not true, that of course only future will tell, more investigation will tell. As far as the locations were concerned, there were these 5 locations spread across the country, 4,300 kilometer in depth, expanse of 5 air bases, both to the east, northwest, and in the center. I think they conveyed a message that they can hit Moscow or Russia anywhere. So that was a big takeaway as far as this operations are concerned. SBU estimates on a telegram message. That's why I'm quoting the source, because you should then read that particular message with that much amount of correctness. $7 billion of losses suffered by Russia. 40 is the number of aircrafts. Some are saying 41, but let's take it that 40 aircrafts were damaged. About 20 to 25 were the new Tu-25s, the nuclear bombers, which is a major signaling that we can go and hit your nuclear delivery systems. But as you know, there are other delivery methods available. It's a triad, so it's not a complete kind of a demonstration of capabilities. Possibly it was just messaging. Zelensky has claimed that it is a brilliant outcome and an outcome produced by Ukraine independently. Again, note, Ukraine has done it independently, so they are probably denying the support of the other Western countries, including NATO, including US, etc. Are they capable of doing it? I think that we will ask our experts from Russia. And the timing of attack, that's very important. It has happened just before the peace talks were supposed to be held. And is it for scuttling that? That's a thing which we have to ask ourselves. Some reactions. George Galloway, I know he's not a very kind of a balanced guy, but his it might just reflect the Putin mood also. Today has been a day of infamy, read it as infamy, in Russia. Just like Pearl Harbor, the Russian response will be swift and terrible, and can only end in one way, in the unconditional surrender of Ukraine regime and their running dogs. Whom do they mean by their running dogs? You all can understand. I fully expect that to be conveyed in Istanbul tomorrow during the peace talks. Russian response will be swift and terrible is the general trend of the people who are supporting Russians, and the other side says that it was a brilliant operation, it was a wonderful thing. The Russians have been given a lesson, or a bloody nose, or whatever. These kind of trends are going on the Twitter. So with that, the questions before our experts is, what is the response of Putin? My sense is likely to be overwhelming. Will the Ukrainian be able to bear it? Suggests US and the West may have to intervene in case the Russians intervene overwhelmingly. Peace, will it stand a chance? What happens to the US interest of stabilizing Ukraine to focus on Indo-Pacific? Is it the beginning of a global war, given Putin's nature of reacting? SBU, probably an offshoot of KGB, beats it on its own game. Likely internal dissatisfaction with Putin for such a large operation to happen under their nose itself. So these are some of the imponderables which are floating in the air, and we would like our experts to cover that. And to begin with, we will of course ask Air Commodore Ashutosh Lal to elaborate his perspective on this entire incident. And I would like to inform our audience that we go back quite some time. I was the GOC and he was the station commander in Jammu. And we did a number of operations jointly, sometimes even without the concurrence of our higher headquarters. So thanks a lot for that, Ashu, for your continued support to us. And over to you now.
My co-panelist here for the kind words, and thank you very much, sir, for recalling all those wonderful times and days. Actually, back to the point which we want to make. Sir, you see the point I would like to bring in over here is the strategic connotation of this entire attack. Sort of an intelligence come technological come aerial route taken to a asset which was deep embedded into Russia's vast territory as far as back as Siberia, and that is where they produce results actually. So I just want to go back a little bit, sir. Actually, 2013, there was a conference in Romania, and I was there. Dr. Saraswat was presenting a paper. Our Dr. Saraswat, he had come to discuss our AVM effort that was done over. And in that particular conference, there was a discussion just going on that slowly EU and NATO is rolling towards Ukraine and everything else, and it'll all become one. So in there, I asked a question that, sir, tomorrow NATO and EU comes to Ukraine, and what happens when this? Devasulu was a site in Romania, sir, where they put SA-3 missiles from the shield. The radars were in Turkey, and the missiles were here in Romania. They said that this base can further move up to Donetsk, Lugansk, just the two places where the independent republics came up and all that fighting took place. So then what happens? In front of us, in the second row, there was a long row of Russian Frushkas. They wear their caps are actually their Frushkas. So they were shining over there. When I was talking and asking this question, the senior most on the right side sent an elbow down to the left. And up sprang a young lieutenant. In chaste English, he replied that whatever this gentleman pointing towards me is asking or thinking about is in realm of fiction. It can never happen. So since back then, Mr. Putin and everybody else was so clear, and which was very evident through all his talks and all his lectures at different places, we know about it actually. So that was one cornerstone, personal, which I felt that pulse I felt, and I gave it, and I fed back to my mentor, our ambassador over there, the wonderful person who taught us a lot, and that is how we took that sentiment back. Cut to chase once again, sir. All the Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles are produced in that East Ukraine region. Dnipropetrovsk is a place wherein there is an agency which is the designer and OEM, so to speak, original equipment manufacturer of those particular missiles, from SS-18 to SS-21. And we knew at that point of time that most of these missiles are about to pass their life and they would need life extension. So was it the design of West to deny that East Ukraine, to take out in one clandestine stroke the major strategic asset of Russia? Please keep that in mind. One point. From there, we come back to the current day status. The choice of targets of Tupolev 22M, Tupolev 96, Tupolev 160, all of them carrying strategic missiles for one of the three triads of Russia, namely the aerial route, they have been targeted now. Yes, I would confirm to you that T-22s and T-96 have launched missiles in this particular conflict. In Kyiv, they have fired, but they have not used those strategic missiles. They've just used the cruise missiles, which have been used to destroy and bring Ukraine to bear with all the losses. So there was no personal animosity that way that to go for them to go and trigger. It's a question for us to think, why was the strategic arm of that sort touched? All right. Coming back to this operation per se, SBU, sir, is, and I'm sure most of us know over here, though is an offshoot of KGB, like you rightly said, but it has been made exceptionally capable with the intervention of their Western partners.
Okay.
I go back to the attack on the Crimean bridge, the new bridge which Russia has opened up for the line connection to Crimea. If that attack, if you recall, it was completely aided by British intelligence. And at many other places, even when the SHBO was flying in to outside Kyiv at that Antonov airfield, while I was in transit from Zaporozhye to Kyiv in a car, even at that point of time, the intervention of West, who was already sitting there, named NATO, that time advisors, for simple exercises like communication and so on and so forth under some name, they quickly formed that nexus and they immediately started to understand that the idea is to take an airfield intact and then to land transport aircraft and get troops right outside Kyiv. And then they went on to foil that, and we know all the story. So this is the context that I wanted to build up through. I have less questions for your viewers to see, research themselves and to figure it out yourself, that, this is how it is going. There is a deep desire in the West to keep eroding their adversaries' teeth in a gradual manner, which has been achieved to a great extent. That can be debated or not. Even the choice of the target over here is also something which is an indicator which is pointing towards that side. So SBU, with the understanding and information of all that what they got from West, they were able to do this. To my understanding, people whom I have spoken to from last evening, when I got those two videos, I shared with Tara ma'am the actual videos. They've used FPV drones, first person view drones.
Yeah.
So it's been taken about 18 months of planning. And Mr. Zelensky has been acknowledged throughout. He has claimed the responsibility of being in charge of the operation in his speech, which he has given some time back. I think Siragon Palace in Istanbul is the place where both the delegates have arrived as we are speaking right now. Medinsky and Umarov, if I'm not wrong, from the Ukrainian side. So they've arrived over there. Before that, Mr. Zelensky's statement has already come out, and he's claimed that was 18 months of training. And to my understanding, sir, the containers were smuggled. Now, just a bit of a point. The eastern border of Ukraine with Russia, as I saw it personally, sir, was completely porous. Families were this side and the other side. Surnames were same. Shakhtar, the miners, this is the miners' territory, Donetsk and everything else. So Shakhtar are the people who are the miners. Shakhtaransky, it's the very hearty people, how Lord of the Ring describes Gimli and everybody else, Gloin the Gimli, so they are those hearty peoples with hearth and large heart and big drinking people, big eating people, working very hard. So there was a constant flow of people, technology, material, up and down, both ways. Always. On the other side, the West had the names like Bogdan Klemensky, the hitman of Ukraine. I mean, of the West, actually, the original Ukraine, that side, which was part of the territory of Hungary and everything else at one given time. Bogdan Klemensky was a fierce warrior. He would not take nothing of that sort, and he would always hitman with a bulat, that some sort of a chota gada, Hanumanji's gada is what they hold in their hand, bulat. He would say, no, this is my territory and nobody else is messing with it. Their nationalism has percolated down eastward in Ukraine. And this border has come to an impasse like this. Of course, now the scars are too deep, too deep, that I don't know when the integration will take place, if ever it will take place, or normalcy will come back ever or not. I don't know about that. But through this porous, and as deep down in Kursk from the other side, down south, these containers have been smuggled. And they have been smuggled to an extent that, to my understanding, there were 6 trucks. 2 of them have got destroyed. They have caught fire somewhere. 4 of them have reached outside these airfields. To my understanding, whatever I understand from my people whom I've spoken to, most of the people have been pulled back. The drivers and everybody else who are operating, they've been pulled back. Now, the question to ask is, if like you said, sir, the roof of the container had to be opened up, there had to be a radio signal.
Yeah.
Technologists have to work this out, actually. How did it happen? And that is where you would see how SBU is more powerful than their counterpart, because they also have access to Western technology through space-based assets and everything else, whichever way. We don't know. I mean, it's just a presumption because there is no line of sight. Something has to happen that way. So, has it happened over internet? They've been, in fact, to be very honest, sir, I take a detour slightly, 30 seconds, that technology in Ukraine has seen leaps and bounds of transformation, especially in these manners. They have been the masters right now to do that. It is not that Russia has not been masters. Please recall the attack through oil pipeline, where the spacenauts have gone through the pipeline, and although claustrophobic, nauseating, they've come out behind Ukrainian lines and they've taken them out completely. It has been happening from both sides. After all, the gene pool is same, like our and our Western neighbors. The gene pool remains same. It is the same piece of land where Mat Ukraina had defeated Hitler. Those soldiers walked back from there only. So, be that it may, the fact remains that they have gone across. They have positioned themselves over here. My only last and final point in my this explanation is about timing. Now, perhaps you would recall, sir, before this attacks, I think 3.5 days back, there was a massive drone and missile attack on Kyiv by Russia. And it is known that they have been talking throughout, yet the attack from Russia's side have been kept up and Ukraine has been absorbing it. Perhaps the reason is that they want to, as we all know, they want to go to the table with an upper hand. And this is where, like a boxer who keeps, if I can give an analogy, like Rocky, who keeps his punch at the last, keeps taking a hit and hit and hit and hit, and finally unleashes one. So just before the talks had to begin, if at all they had to unleash, this was the time for them, because they had only one chance. And as luck has it, as operational ingenuity has it, as innovative use of air power has it, espionage in the sense of getting the details, smuggling, which is completely gray area, moving into Russia because the language is same, whichever way, they've reached there. They've cut through all those borders and they've reached there. And they have kept the sleeping cell of air power right next door to those assets. Now comes in technology as well, which sort of unravels, which sort of wakes up this sort of a sting which is stored in this. And if you see some of the videos which I've got, when the truck covers comes off, one drone is going off. It is not that suddenly all the drones have come out and they've just gone and swarmed. One drone has come out and has gone over there. If you see the video that I have sent, they've put tires on top of the wings of those big aeroplanes. So I question, what is this? Why have they kept tires? Apparently, it's a tactic used by Russians and Ukrainians both to save their assets and confuse the drones. Sometimes the drone logic of locking on gets confused when they see tires on top of the wings. You can perhaps see that. So be that it may, then the attack has gone through and the results are in front of us. What I can confirm to you is 41 aircraft, which includes T-22M, Tu-96, Tu-160, and at least one A-50. That's the monumental, no matter how big a power you are, but these many aeroplanes being taken off in one go, certainly, sir, it makes a very huge dent. My just one last point is, sir, that which is very topical to us, and I just want to link it up to the our context actually. One is straightforward, sir, that the low level of the air of the aerial umbrella that we have on top of us till about 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet is the zone from where this threat has come. And we've seen just recently how important this was at our old Karambhumi, Jammu. We saw all that unfolding, sir. Thankfully, our Zoos and our L-70s, they fired the barrage and they kept the volume very high. So this is one zone. Mind you, sir, very soon, the first of the air taxis passengers are rolling out now. And that is civil development, and you cannot stop it. They will share this space. So you will need something to be very sure about it. What is authentic and what is in the air, which is yours, and what is in the air, which is not yours. this is going to get as complex as that. That is one point. And just the last point is, I wonder what happens if an adversary decides to launch a boat uh, with a container like that in the Arabian Sea, where most of our big time assets are over there. Is there a lesson for us? You know, adversaries all across the world who don't have depth, who are minor in stature, they have a very good understanding of adapting from each other. Is the messages are going somewhere else? We need to be ahead of the game. We've had some kind of a dialogue happening in this conflict of ours. What happened on the first day? Nobody wants to get surprised. So certainly, for sure, there is a major lesson for us that we need to be very aware. And we have a coastline, which is totally different. So it's not about smuggling. It could be about a sea line of communication and somebody passing through and a container opens up and takes off. Of course, there are issues of ranges and distances and times and everything else that apart. But I'm just saying that there is a possibility that it can happen. I'm thank you very much for my time. Before you gave me so much of time, I try to wrap it up from historical perspective and what has driven this, how it has been done, what implications. Thank you.
Hold on, you're not going away in a hurry. We have we have questions for you. And
Sure.
Dr. Tara, you are going to now turn into an expert and not a moderator. And the question for you will be that what do you see the peace talks heading? Where do you see the peace talk now heading after this attack? They're already meeting. They're already probably talking. I don't know, but how is that going to happen? But before that, I will invite Jan Bhadauria to comment on 2-3 things which Air Commodore Ashu has raised. Firstly, is about the capability of SBU, which we were discussing just before the podcast. And the second thing is, what do you think will Putin be doing? You have been in Russia a number of times, so please put yourself in Putin's head and see what is he likely to do, both militarily as also in terms of the other factors which are involved in this, geopolitical factors which are involved in this, in terms of countries, etc. Is he going to go closer to China and things like that? And thereafter, Dr. Tara Kartha, you have to do the most difficult part of uh, telling us through whatever soothsaying or whatever binoculars which you have, where are we heading as far as peace in Russia-Ukraine war is concerned and the talks. So first, General Bhadauria and then Dr. Kartha.
Thank you very much. Now, firstly, let me begin by saying I agree with most of what Ashutosh has said. Firstly, let me begin by saying that Russia for sure has been surprised. They were never expecting this kind of attack of this scale. So, therefore, whatever you say, they have succeeded. The Ukrainians, they have succeeded in infiltrating people and planning it for all this while. So, that's a given, right? Now, if you visit Russia now, Moscow, and even this Siberia, the life seems to be very, very normal. I mean, you do not feel that this country is at war. So what I tend to agree with him is people are moving up and down, and when you are in those cities, you find the same goods which are available in Europe. So I was asking somebody, how do you get them? We get them through a third country. So life has been quite normal in spite of the war going on. Now, that way, it's not very difficult for people to be smuggled in if you plan long term. So, that I agree with you that they have been pushed some time back and they were like sleeping agents lying over there. Now, the other point is uh, does Russia wants to continue with this war? They've been fighting for 3 years, right? I do not think now they wish to continue this war for a couple of reasons. First reason is some kind of a fatigue. When Putin was being elected, the families of the Russian soldiers, they were trying to say that, look, our men have been on the border for this long. When are they going to be turned over? Right? Russia does not have young people to fight. They have got people from all over, and we know it from North Korea and things like that. So that little fatigue is there. And I do not think they wish to continue the war. Putin doesn't want to continue the war. He has said so in so many words. And why? He says, I have got what I wanted. He's got almost 25% of the territory that he wanted, which he actually was looking for. Second, very recently, Trump has given the assurance that Ukraine will not become part of NATO. And this is what he was wanting. NATO in Ukraine means it was existential threat for Putin. So couple of these assurances were given by Trump, and I think Putin was quite okay with that. Only thing he wanted to have was upper hand during the talks, which anyone, because Russia was a superpower and still is a very major power. No major power would like to go into talks with cards not in their hand. So they would all want to have little upper hand when they are negotiating. But negotiating, whatever they would have negotiated, he's already got it. And in some manner, Trump has already indicated that yes, he's quite okay with what Russia wants. Right now, here, very interestingly, last year when Trump was elected, there was a little seminar held, and Putin came after that. I was present there. There's a lot of questions on how do you see Trump. Right, he saw Trump as friend. I mean, he could not have said it more clearly. But he also said that, look, then people asked, will you do business with him? He said, of course, I'll do business with him, but provided he can take his own decisions. Right? Meaning that there is deep state, and President Trump himself will not be able to take a lot of decisions which he wishes to take. Just a day or two before that, their foreign minister, Lavrov, he said very clearly that US is controlled by deep state. Right? So therefore, I come to this, what Ashutosh was saying, the timing. Why now? Right? Is it Russia which is wanting to scuttle the peace talks? I don't think so, for the reasons that I've just said. Right? Is it some other people who are wanting to scuttle the talks? Looks like. And who could those be? Europeans, for sure. Right? Zelensky, he's run out of, I mean, he's no more a elected president now, because the elections can't be held. That's why he's there in power. And Putin had said so many in last year that I'll talk to a elected president. Right? He's not very keen to talk to Zelensky. So therefore, he himself may be one of the beneficiaries in case the talks are delayed. There are other people. I mean, like Ashutosh was saying, MI6, CIA, right? The guys who have been involved in this war, they've been actually providing the intelligence, right? Huge lobbies. Imagine, just before Joe Biden was leaving the office, he sanctioned $60 billion in aid to Ukraine. So where was that money going? Via Ukraine, it would have come to US, the people who make arms. So there are a lot of interest in this, and they are the guys, it appears, that they do not want this war to end in hurry. Right? To me, it appears for sure these are not Russians. They want an end to the war on their terms. And probably it would have happened in case this thing had not happened. Now, coming to what Russia will do, in case it is a Pearl Harbor moment, we know what happened after Pearl Harbor, what Americans did. Russia is not going to take it lying down. Putin is not the kind of leader who will take it lying down, because his power comes from remaining strong. 80% people support him, whichever way you want, right? So he would react, and he would react majorly. Now, what Ashutosh was saying, that their assets have been, nuclear assets, strategic assets have been hit. Like we have gone to Noor Khan base, given an indication. So likewise, if some kind of a indication has been given to Russia. So therefore, it is actually their existential threat. They cannot see this kind of a threat on their doorsteps. So they will react, and they will react very, very powerfully. Right? That is all that I have to say at this point in time. Thank you very much.
Still to that important question, that what happens during the peace talks and how are we going to go ahead? We know that Putin has a very large ego. Putin has been given a not a bloody nose, but his head has been smashed the way things have happened. I would say it's not only a Pearl Harbor movement, it's a 9/11 of Russia, given the way Russians have been damaged in this particular event or incident. So, Dr. Kartha, do you see the entire war extending to 4 to 5 months before the Russians get an upper hand and go in and agree for a talk? Over to you.
Just looking at Zelensky's tweet, right? What he said is very actually eerily similar to what we said before we attacked Pakistan. He said we attacked only military sites and our intention was only to fix the Russians. It is a very unlike what we did, which was, very laid back. It was very controlled. It was a very, very it was not at all muscular. It was a bare statement of fact. But this is the worst attack, I think, in decades. I can't remember last when Russia had such a severe attack on it. I had a couple of questions, Ashutosh, in terms of this man. In principle, Zelensky, as we know, unelected, not very popular. A bunch of his old service people resigned. A lot of people are protesting this continued thing. So he's not popular. If this war ends, Zelensky goes good. I mean, he might be killed, he might be finished off, he might be put on trial. So he has to survive. When I say he and his clique of people who are surrounding him. So that is one aspect also we need to look at. Second thing is, if he says this continued for 1.5 years, with my background, I don't believe someone else helped them to ship all this stuff inside. It could have been planned completely elsewhere and brought in, just like you said, at a psychological time to scuttle the peace talks. So, as General Bhadauria said, there are innumerable actors who want this to continue. My only, what just might happen is that they might, some of the stuff which I'm seeing, the same things which I'm seeing, there is a certain triumphalism in Ukraine, but there is also people are fed up. Everybody wants this war to end. And that is also includes much of Europe because they are suffering economically. So if these talks fail, I'm not sure what Zelensky's future is going to be. Putin is sitting pretty where he is, by and large, relatively speaking. But Zelensky, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I don't see how these talks can go forward in with Russia having gotten such a bloody nose. Something terrible is going to happen, and if this goes out of control, Europe, as it has shown over the last hundreds of years, while advising everybody else on wars, is unable to keep its own territory under control. So this is a very dangerous time. So I'll stop there.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Kartha. I think you have left me still in doubt and guessing as to what is going to happen as far as the peace talks are concerned.
I don't think
The
it's
peace
going to go.
talks,
It's not
I
going to
think the
go
peace
anywhere.
talks are, I think the peace talks are going to go and crash itself into the Bosphorus, where the talks are going on. The future looks a little bleak, but I want to come to a more important question, and that question is for Ashu and for Jan Bhaduria. You see, this attack has demonstrated a very happy mix of covert and overt action, gray zone with a black zone. Do you think it has a larger message for us, essentially within our continent and within our context of Indo-Pak, Indo-Bangladesh, and so many other things are happening around us? Do you think we need to now reassess our, in fact, entire force structuring profiling? Where should we put our money? The defense budget is very limited. We may keep us saying that we want 3% and more, etc., etc., but the government will give only that much what it can afford, crisis notwithstanding. So your views first of all on what are the lessons for India in this, and also to General Bhaduria, and then I'll request Dr. Tara, this will be the last round, to kind of sum it up and say that we need to be now more and more conscious of the developments in warfare, given the fact that our new security doctrine, which has been laid out by the Prime Minister, has an implication on this kind of an attack. There is somebody who is more smarter than us. in using the proxies, so we have to be careful on that. So over to you, Ashu, Gen Bhadauria and Dr. Tara, and you could also conclude it when Dr. Tara is speaking.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll be first on the block, sir. Actually, just a couple of points I wanted to make before I come to the question that you asked per se. Mr. Zelensky, we know he's been an actor all his life. Uh, what does an actor want? A mic and a script. He had that mic and the script given to him by who all, and he was very happy to just play the role which was there and to perform over there, and that's what he's been doing all this while. Through this process, you're absolutely right. His popularity has declined. If Russia, if you think, is under a bit of a stress and a strain and fatigue, as General Bhadauria brought out, I can assure you, sir, Ukraine is at its wits' end.
Oh.
Its wits' end. There are no young people left over there. Uh, I know one of my friends. She just posted some pictures of her son passing out of the school. It was heartbreaking to see that ceremony itself was so down trodden sort of thing. Actually, that it's very difficult. And most of the people who could afford have already left Ukraine. If you look at the diaspora of Ukraine, which is living in other countries, it's
It's about
mind-boggling.
7 million. It's about 7 million.
Out of a population, if you look percentage-wise, a very huge percentage, sir.
Yeah.
7 million
No,
just sound a number, but
yeah.
population-wise, percentage-wise, it's a very large number. So,
Yes.
fact is, General Bhadauria brought it out that there are countries through which the European goods are reaching the markets and the malls of Russia and Moscow. Uh, we know they have a huge presence in Middle East. You have no idea how much Russians holiday in Turkey, in Egypt, in Middle East, and what kind of trade routes have now been set. I'm privy to some of them at this point of time. I know for sure that the trade routes like laundering, which happens from here to there, and everything else get obfuscated. They have built up over there. So these are some of the backgrounds which are going to happen. So, Mr. Zelensky, the question to be asked here is, sir, why did Russia step up the attacks before the talks? Russia did step up the top. That was the primary action that they did actually. So why did they step up the attacks before? Because I don't know what Mr. Putin wanted. 25% territory he wanted, yes. A buffer state he wanted, yes. Okay, all that he's got. Crimea he's already taken and gone, passed down and dusted. Nothing can happen. Land route has opened up. Water has come to Crimea. All that has happened. Whatever he wanted, all right down till Kherson he's come, and then he's done whatever he had to do. So for him it was, I mean, okay to wait for these talks and get this thing going. And if there is an understanding with Mr. Trump, then it can happen. But for some reason, he decided to do that. And for that particular reason, this has happened as a backlash from this side, triggered by who all. Um, I forget the name of the undersecretary who was caught in the. I used to quote her phone call very often. The name slipped my mind. Uh, Referred to anyways, be that it may. I'm just saying that the fact of the matter is that how the players on the back door are playing this over here. So there is great possibility out of those 60 billion which was sanctioned, and I know the kind of equipment which has come to Ukraine on the second hand, on the expiry of everything else, on that kind of a new label and the kind of money which has been adjusted over there. I know for sure. So there is a great likelihood that some deep power, some deep state, somewhere, call it military industrial complex or whomsoever, actually, they have an interest in prolonging this as much to milk it as much as it is possible, and therefore it happened this point of time. So this is one short point that wanted to happen, sir. I I beg to just differ on one point, sir. That well, the normal reaction would be, sir, that it's the 9/11, it's the Pearl Harbor, it's the moment for Russia, the way we are talking about. All right, but if Mr. Putin acknowledges this as a debilitating attack on Russia, that itself is going to bring down his sort of gate and that defined when he comes out and keeps people waiting and sits across large tables in meetings and decides to make people wait. So I have a feeling to an extent that Mr. Putin is going to underplay this attack. Till now, there is no statement to come out of Russia. Sergei Lavrov, is the last man standing after Henry Kissinger. he is doing whatever he has to do. The fact remains that if Mr. Putin plays this under and doesn't immediately react as that, while the talks go through first or second or third phase, because of course the talks have to get phased for sure, and then he plans, or he already has a plan, who knows. I think only one person could have understood his mind, and that lady is not in active politics anymore. I'm talking of Madame Merkel. Because of her East Germany links, she would understand Mr. Putin so much better, and this conflict would have been a different direction altogether in case she was still in charge and in chair. Be that it may, sir, we do not have a person to understand Putin's mind. I have an, as personal opinion, I have an opinion that, sir, he might underplay this victory of Ukraine, deny it in a manner as it is being done by superpowers. Yeah, it's okay. You did a good attack. All right, we'll see it later, and brings up a surprise in a different manner altogether. Because right now, I can assure you, sir, in Ukraine there are very little targets left, except some building and some uh, Orthodox church places, Sofia, Mikolaivsky, and all that, which I'm sure nobody would want to touch. He has pulverized it to that an extent. The amount of fear which has gone into the families. I know the families who live in the villages, who are people of the land. That's how ardi they are, and that's what I used to always say. Commonality between Indians and Ukrainians. Two, family values, staying ardi, staying together. Religion, whatever religion you believe in, you always bow to the god and carry on. Next day we will see what happens. So they are of that opinion and that nature. They are at their end, absolutely. It is in somebody's interest, but Mr. Putin is not likely to take a very direct major attack in recent time. Although by now the reports that I'm seeing it from my sources, some Skandar missiles have already been striking and some kind of a retaliation is taking place. So it is yet to be seen that how does it play out actually. General Dushyant brought it out, the lessons for us, and I alluded to that in my short comments which I was making earlier. Is just that it's a very major issue for us. We have seen it as to how it has gone recently in the task that will happen. Surprise is an element which people would want to seek. There are people who are very apt at holding proxies. In this, the attacker has we know it said though it will always come from Arispura, but they all crossed us and went all over the place actually, and then they didn't touch us because we were very strong in our place. So they went to Nagrota, they went to Uri, they went to all the places, but they all came from Arispura. So in a similar manner, it is very important to understand, so that we have a huge amount of I brought out the saturation of airspace below 3000 feet, especially when air taxis come in. What is valid, what is not valid should be visible very clearly. We may have a very good visibility as far as little higher civil and military traffic is concerned, but you already seen that the rogues are flying under the shadow of airliners. The rogues are sailing under the shadow of a huge ship. Somalia pirates and everybody else, and all those things are there actually. So we need to be very careful and sure about it, that from the air, from the land, and especially from the sea, because that is unique in our case. We need to be very, very sure about this, sir. I think I'll stop here, sir. Your mic, sir.
Sir, sir, a quick concluding remark by you, and then Dr. Kartha, and we will call it a end to the show thereafter.
Thank you very much. Now, coming to your question directly, uh, covert and overt and the gray zone, right? So, personally, I feel, and what this particular incident has also displayed, that now there are no borders. The wars are not going to be fought on LAC, IB, or beg your sorry, on LOC. They will be fought everywhere. In our case, our internal security becomes as important as our security on the borders. And we have quite a few fault lines, so we'll have to take care of them. We have to be very, very careful all the times. The sleeper cells, in case Ukraine could do that, I'm sure our adversary can do that, both of them, quite easily, because the stock is the same, language is same, and they could already be lying here. So therefore, our internal security takes as much precedence as our security on the border, and also the use of technology for carrying out these attacks. So we'll have to be all the time wargaming as to how things can happen. And we cannot rule out anything that no, this is not possible. Probably attack in Delhi is not possible, or maybe in Assam is not possible. Everything is possible, right? So therefore, it makes the whole thing even more difficult for us. And particularly so now that we have said that in case the next attack takes place, we will be going not only for the terrorist but also for their backers and the army which backs them. So therefore, it becomes even more uh, important for us to know exactly what happens, who is doing that. So our intelligence setups have to be very, very up and about. And also, during these incidents, it's very important to have some back channels going, right? So that we do not trip, because we are two nuclear power states. Ukraine and Russia are not, but we are nuclear power states. So everyone has, even Soviet Russia and US had. So those channels are important, maybe directly or maybe through some other friends and all. Those should also be, those should continue to work. Thank you very much.
Thanks, General Bhadauria, and now Dr. Karth.
Can
Thanks, General Bhadauria, and now Dr. Kartha. You have got the entire view summed up.
which is
Now, just give your concluding comments and end the show, because I am still where I started.
no, I think looking into crystal gazing at that particular ball can be extremely dangerous for your health. So I'm not going to do that. But I think this was a fascinating discussion, because, particularly because the gray zone aspect is huge here. We've been talking gray zone, and this is what you're seeing right now unfolding in front of our eyes. So, what I think General Dushyant has often said, we need to be continuously on alert, and that's going to cost us a lot. This is a very expensive exercise, and this is also the danger from what I've seen. I mean, my expertise is more in terrorist groups. They are copycats. If they find something works, they will do the same. So a modified version of this is entirely possible by a terrorist group who wants, there's a bunch of people who want India and Pakistan to go to war. Let's keep that also in mind. Having said that, I'd like to thank everybody for this fascinating discussion, especially Ashutosh Lal, who has given such in-depth insights that we can rarely get elsewhere. So thank you all, and a very good evening to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank
So much.
you. Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Ajay.
Thank you.